welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. This is the full review of the Sabatti Rover Hunter Classic Pro in 223. Now this rifle is available in the UK from Range Right, and it's in 223 and 308. Now the first thing you're going to notice about it is the very fantastic looking stock. Now it's actually a walnut stock, but it has what Sabatti call the enhanced wood grain coating. So although when you take it apart you can see the walnut on the inside, on the outside you see this extra finish on it. Now I've done an unboxing review on this, one of the first impressions, and I'll add that on, I'll put that on a link on here. But it's very interesting, this stock, because when you're looking at it, I can't find like the join line that you generally get on a dipped coating. So whether it's some kind of synthetic coating, a laser coating, what it is, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks absolutely fantastic and it's super smooth and completely water sealed. So in terms of long-term use, how will it stand up to being scraped on bushes, against barbed wire fences, being taken in and out of vehicles and things like that? I can't tell you, but it certainly looks very nice to start with. But anyway, let's cover some of the features of the rifle. Starting out, it's actually screw cut 1/2 inch by 28 for a moderator or muzzle brake, and a muzzle brake, this one here, is actually fitted with it. Supplied little pepper pot muzzle brake. Now on a 223, the recoil on a sporting rifle is certainly not aggressive. The muzzle brake is actually quite mild when you're shooting it. It obviously drops whatever recoil there is to virtually nothing. But you know, I think most people in the UK certainly are going to put a sound moderator on this, because in 223 this is going to make an excellent foxing rifle or small deer rifle. The barrel's cold hammer forged and it uses conventional land and groove rifling. Now Sabatti are known for their kind of multi-radial rifling, which they use on the larger calibers, but the 223 does still have conventional lands and grooves. It's a 560mm barrel, which is 22 inches long, so you get good velocity without too much handling bulk, and I'm very happy with it. Starts out at 14mm and it swells up where it goes into the action at the reinforce. The barrel fully free floats in the stock, and the stock itself is stiff, so you don't get any problems with any intermittent contact with it. You've seen me shooting it from a clamp and a tripod, and no problem at all with zero shift or anything like that. Now, one of the key points to mention about this is it's actually an aluminium action, and people think aluminium action, how does that work? Well, generally there are a few rifle companies who use aluminium actions, and that's because the action is what I would call a sort of architectural structural component, not a pressure bearing component. So essentially it holds the barrel where it needs to be and it gives space for the bolt to run in it, but the 3 lugs on the bolt lock into the abutments in the back of the barrel. Now that gives you a super strong lockup, no more strong than a conventional steel action, but what it does give you, and you'll see in the breakdown picture I've done of this because I can't do it actually on film, is that the barrels on these are removable and interchangeable. Now of course that's a 223 bolt face there for the 223 cartridge. If you were to go for one of the larger calibers you would have to have action length specific, and you would have to have a different bolt with a different bolt face for it. Now in the UK, switch barrel rifles aren't really that common a factor. We don't kind of have the licensing legalities that make a switch barrel rifle make good sense, whereas some countries very much do so. And that is why some countries are very keen on switch barrel rifles, because you don't go over the number, you know, they kind of categorise the action as the rifle and the barrels are just accessories. Therefore you could have one action and 6 or 7 barrels and it wouldn't go over your limit for maybe 6 guns, which is what you have in some countries. In the UK, not so popular, but doesn't really detract from the gun. I did actually take the barrel off, put it back on, and I got a return to zero of actually within 3 centimetres at 100 metres, so I was actually quite pleased with that. And it is, as you can see from the picture, just a job of taking it out, undoing a couple of Allen screws, the barrel clamps in, comes out, there we go, put it back together, put the bolt in, clamp the screws back up, and you're good to go again. But of course, you do have to take the whole action out of the stock. Now there are 2 T25 torque screws to do that. No problem doing this at all. Loosen those off and the barrel action will drop free. The inletting is neat and everything looks very good inside. I'm very happy with the finishing quality of everything, and the rifle does shoot well, but more about that in a second. So while we're looking at this trigger guard assembly is actually polymer, and it's a detachable magazine system. Let's just pop that out. Now the release catch, you can see, is in the trigger guard in here, and that mag pops out. It's a polymer magazine. It feeds in a single column and it holds 4 rounds in a vertical stack. You could, if you wanted, put the +1 in the magazine too, because there is plenty of space to close the bolt and then have the magazine go in, because some guns won't load with a full magazine when the bolt is shut, but you can on this one. That brings me on to another point. When I was shooting it, you can see the groups on paper, we'll talk about those in a second. The feed ramp in here, I was using 55 grain VMAX bullets, which is my general go-to round for 223. That is a polymer tip bullet, nice sharp point on it. Those feed beautifully smoothly. Now I did also use some 50 grain CX bullets, but they wouldn't feed very well because they do actually snag on the feed ramp. But that's because that particular CX bullet, it has a sort of hollow point Maplat bullet, and there is actually a slight ridge on the rim on that, and that's what catches on it. But the ballistic tip bullets or soft point bullets, no problem, and it slid in beautifully easily, closed down. It's a 60-degree lift and no problem shooting them. Now of course 3 lugs gives you a 60-degree lift, bolt, very fast and smooth in operation. I was extremely happy with that. The bolt handle has been left compact, so it's nice length and it doesn't over torque the bolt itself and jam in operation. You've got a nice bright stainless steel bolt here, and that means you've got a really good smooth operation in the rifle itself. The bolt release catch is on the left side. I'll just pop the bolt out and show you that again. So it's a 3-lug bolt. We've got an extractor claw here and we've got an ejector plunger there. Ejection in use was absolutely fine. I was totally happy with it. No detrimental factors to comment on at all. The safety catch is on the side here. So it's a 2-position safety catch. Forward is clunk, fire, and then rear is safe, but it doesn't lock the bolt on safe. Some people like that, some people don't. That's just a factor, that's what it does here. The cocked action indicator is tactile there, it's the back of the firing pin, and then of course when you do fire it, that will click forward and you can feel it's no longer there, just in case you need something like that on the gun. Now the trigger is a single stage unit. It is adjustable, and this one was supplied breaking at 2,323 grams, which is 82 ounces. And when you dismantle it from the stock, you can change that or adjust it if you want. It's actually a very nice trigger to use because you've got plenty of space in the trigger guard for a gloved finger. It's a steel blade and it's a nice feel to it, nice reach from the grip, and you can just squeeze and it breaks cleanly with a nice throughput over travel. So you get a great operating performance with it, and it's very consistent. I was totally happy using it. Now overall length on the rifle is 1050mm, which is 41.25 inches, and the overall weight is 3070 grams, which is £6.12 ounces. Length of pull is 13 3/4 inches, which is 349 millimeters. And you can actually use the length of pull adjustable spacers that come with the rifle. You will also see there's a cheek piece on here, and that polymer cheek piece, you can remove that screw there and the cheek piece can be moved up and down. You can get different sizes of them, so you can set that up to actually fit you as you want it. But again, on a sporting rifle, although people love to say, oh, I've got great cheek weld, often too tight a cheek weld on a sporting rifle can be detrimental, because in terms of speed of engagement, sometimes you do need a little bit of free play, especially when you might be some days, you know, very heavy clothes on, other days in warmer weather you might only have a lighter shirt on. And of course, making everything a very tight fit means it's more critical to exact performance on the day. Now, Sabatti say the rifle has a Picatinny rail for scope mounting. I would sort of be a bit pedantic about that and say it's not a full rail, it's 2 bases here, because it doesn't go the full length. That doesn't really detract from it, because to be honest, any scope you put on that is going to fit perfectly well, and it's consistent if you want to remove it and put it back in position. Similarly, these days, most night vision and thermal imaging kit is going to the 30mm tube fitting, which means you use conventional rings and you can use conventional ring spacing. And I think that is the best way of doing it, and it suits this rifle and it suits most other rifles as well. Because back when night vision and thermal started and we had boxy units with sort of a couple of Picatinny mounts underneath, they were very critical for fitting position, and that's just not something we have to worry too much about anymore. The recoil pad on the back has got a nice firm feel to it, it's got rounded edges, it goes into your shoulder well, and there's some nice machining on the stock here to give you a little bit of a shape change on it. Stud at the back, stud at the front, and you've got checkering which is sort of inlaid into it. Not particularly sharp checkering, but it does give you a good tactile feel. The grip's got a slight palm swell on it, it's ambidextrous, the gun can be shot from either shoulder, and it does have a really nice sort of handling style to it and balance which is neutral. Now, of course, if you're going to put a sound moderator on it, it'll go a little bit forward of neutral, but that's a preference and choice of your own, so do it as you want to. Range Right actually sent me a Conus Armada scope with it. It's a 4-16 by 50 scope, nothing particularly outlandish in terms of specification or performance, but one thing I will say about this scope is it has a feature I've not seen before, because you've got the magnification control here, which is fairly normal, but the parallax is actually here. I've not seen a scope with the parallax set from a ring and a collar there before, and that's just a bit of a difference about this Conus scope. The back end here's got the fast focus eyepiece, and there is actually also a level bubble in there, so you can get your anti-cant set up on it, as well as the actual illumination control on top. Right, let's have a little look at the targets, because people are going to say, oh, you're not shot in the middle, it's not very accurate, is it? Well, actually, accuracy is about where the bullet hits, and I would say no, this isn't particularly been set up to be accurate, but this has been set up for precision because I want to see a group that the rifle will shoot, and I can measure velocities from it. I'll put those on screen for you, but that 22-inch barrel did give me absolutely acceptable speed and energy from conventional 55 grain bullets and 223 ammunition. I don't shoot groups in the middle of the target because I want to be able to keep my aim point absolutely consistent, and then I can, without having to mess around, then I can see roughly where different ammunition types are shooting in different positions. I predominantly use the 55 grain VMAX. I did shoot some 35 grain NTX and also the 50 grain CX, but I had to manually hand single load the 50 grain CX because of that feed ramp factor. But you can see here, the groups of sort of things it will shoot with a 55 grain VMAX, more than acceptable, sub-minute of angle, and I enjoyed shooting the rifle. It did bed in a little bit and smoothed out, and it got a little bit more accurate as the test went on, because when it first started I gave it a good clean through, and I think it took maybe 15-20 rounds just to settle. Shooting it with a chronograph indicated that after about 15 or 20 rounds the extreme spread smoothed out completely, and I was getting about a 40 foot per second extreme spread, which from factory ammunition doing 3,000 feet per second in 223 is more than acceptable. and you can see aiming there, we've got a group there, we've got a group there, aim there, got a group there, aiming here, we've got a group there. That's the 35 grain NTX, which is a little bit different. These 3 bullet holes here are from when I was aiming there with the first few shots, zeroing it, and from bore sighting, that is actually very, very well aligned in terms of the optic to the barrel. So I was more than pleased with that. The weird thing about reviewing rifles is that I've done so many that actually, when it comes down to it, sometimes the less you say, the more you mean, because I really have nothing negative or detrimental to say about shooting this rifle. I think the enhanced wood finish does look great. I would say be cautious that long term it might not look awesome forever, but all rifles that actually really get used for going hunting take bumps and knocks, and it's a fact of life. I'd rather have a rifle that was nice and well weather sealed like this, with the handling character of the walnut, with a little bit of extra looks without a huge price advantage on top of that for the looks, because you go grade 3 or grade 5 walnut, the price suddenly goes extremely high. So maybe I'd prefer this with the kind of synthetic finish on it, because you get the looks with the performance and not the price, because this rifle's only just over £1,000 in the UK, and you'd have to check with your local distributors, retailers, etc. to find exactly what it is for you. But I think it represents excellent value because it looks great and it's a very nice rifle to shoot. Length of pull is good, alignment with the scope is good, and I was more than happy shooting it. It's got really nice trigger pulls, really nice bolt operation, so I can't criticise it at all. As I say, you're shooting it, you've got plenty of space to grip here. If you shoot it from bags, it's got a flat underside on the fore end, and when it's clamped above a tripod, if that's what you prefer for foxing and things like that, there's no zero shift or anything like that. And of course, long term, you could, if you wanted to, have an additional barrel factor added if Range Right do go about importing those as well. Right, I hope you've enjoyed watching that review. Please like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell and keep track of my regular uploads. And please go all the way through to the end of the video, because there are links to the 2025 British Shooting Show at the NEC in Birmingham from the 14th to the 16th of February. I will be there. If you see me, say hello, tell me you're a reviewer and a subscriber of the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.